My son is Tyler. He was 2 years old when I decided to put him in swim lessons. When he was 2, his sister was in swim lessons, and I had the choice of putting him in infant survival swim lessons or going into the pool with him because he wasn't old enough to go into swim classes. There was a certain amount of money in the budget last year, and I had seen my friends' videos of their little babies doing infant survival swim and kind of thought about it back and forth whether it should be something that we should do. And when it came down to it, I just didn't want to spend the money. I signed him up for Mommy and Me swim lessons, and we did those for about 2 months, and he loved it. He was everywhere in the pool. I couldn't even keep him interested in the class. I think he needed more. He wasn't challenged enough. It was just enough to get him comfortable with the water, and he didn't have a respect for the water because I was there with him all the time. On July 2nd, I'll never forget it because it was 2 days before the 4th of July. We were setting up to do a 4th of July craft at my friend's house where she has a pool. I don't have a pool at my house. We were setting up for the craft. We were putting a canopy up so that they wouldn't get burned in the sun, and she needed help setting the canopy up. Tyler had come up to me with his floaty and asked to go in the pool because the other 3 kids were already swimming and splashing and having fun. And I told him no, that we weren't going to get wet, we were going to do a craft. I just didn't want him to get wet. I was being lazy. We put up the canopy and it had to have been 2 to 3 minutes. It seemed like an eternity at the time, but when I realized I hadn't heard him or seen him, I said, "Where's Tyler?" And I turned around, and before I even turned around, I knew. There was just something inside that I knew something was wrong. And immediately, when I saw him floating in the same outfit that he's wearing today, sometimes it's a little bit, it gives me the EBGBs a little bit to see him in that outfit. But he was at the surface of the water, floating, submerged, and he was lifeless. He was floating. Just no, 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 no is all I said. Just no, no, no. I couldn't grasp that it was happening to me. This cannot be happening to me. I'm an ICU nurse. We weren't having a party. We weren't having a barbecue. There wasn't drinking involved. There wasn't tons of people to be distracted. It was just 2 responsible parents, and I turn around and my son is floating in 2 minutes. Tyler was lifeless. He was non-responsive. When I got into the pool, I jumped in and I scooped him out, and the kids were still in the pool. That makes me nervous. I scooped him out, I put him on the tarp underneath this canopy that we were setting up for the craft, and just went into ICU nurse mode, and he was non-responsive. His lips were blue. He was clearly hypoxic. He was not initiating breaths. His eyes were closed, and his teeth were clamped. So when I was trying to breathe for him, I couldn't tilt his chin properly. And when I finally tilted his chin properly, I took about 2 more breaths, but I was nervous about how much I should breathe. I'm an ICU nurse, and I resuscitate adults with bags. I don't know for children, but I was thankful that I knew how to breathe for him, and I said one more prayer, and I just said, "God, this is the last breath. It's been too long." And I took one really good, courageous breath, and it was enough for him to turn and cough and scream, and that scream was the best sound of my life that I've ever heard. And I scooped him up, and my friend was on the phone with 911 at the time. She went out front to meet with the ambulance, and about that time he vomited what he'd swallowed in the water trying to get to the surface. What I want to tell parents is that it is not optional to invest in your children. The money that I wanted to spend in a different way last year, instead of paying for infant survival swim, I spent it on an ambulance ride. It's not optional to have a child near a pool and have them not be safe. For other parents who are looking for infant survival swim, I recommend the pod because of the feeling that you have when you hand your child to the instructor. I feel like this is a family. I feel welcomed when I walk in the door. I would recommend infant survival aquatics to anybody who has a kid. I think that it's something that people should start thinking about as soon as your baby can move on their own, even crawl on their own. I know that they have instructors here that can facilitate younger children, and if your child can get to a pool, then they need to learn how to be safe by a pool. Last week was our first time in a pool outside of this facility, and it was the pool that he had his incident in. And Daddy said, just put his floaty on him so that he can go out and have fun. And I said, absolutely not. No, we're not taking back everything that we've learned. He had such a respect for the water. He stayed next to the stairs. He did jump in the water. He didn't do his floating, but the respect that he had for the water was a totally different child than last year.